Thanks everyone for tuning in to the live storm coverage last night across Texas, Oklahoma, into Missouri, into the overnight hours. Very large hail, up to 4.5 inches down there in Texas. Numerous hail reports across Oklahoma and some tornadoes. And then we had some strong tornadoes in the overnight hours. So now that threat has now continued to shift eastbound. And we still have tornado warnings even into this morning across areas of Kentucky. You can see where the cold front is approaching the Shreveport region, but we've got a plenty warm air mass out ahead of it. We're going to have a significant severe weather outbreak and strong tornadoes and even potentially violent tornadoes up here across the Ohio Valley. It's all complements of this warm front. And as this low-level jet will be coming in, wow, things look really nasty, especially as we approach the 2, 3, 4 o'clock time frame. They do have that rare moderate risk in place across the Ohio Valley. So let's break down the threats on each zone and start off with the overall wind threat. And that's going to be significant, folks. They do have that hatched risk, 30% probability. That means 1/3 of these supercells could likely see some 70, 80, possibly 90-mile-per-hour winds across Louisville into Cincinnati, portions of Indianapolis, as well as into the Columbus region, up down there into Charleston. Still further south into the Nashville region, down in Huntsville, back into Knoxville, even to the Birmingham region, getting into later in the evening, we could be looking at some 70-mile-per-hour winds. And yes, that could extend even further south into the Montgomery region, all the way down into Mobile, into the evening time frame. That wouldn't shift over and even into Atlanta as we get deeper into the evening as well. So it's a busy day ahead and busy hail threat as well. So we have an extremely large hail threat where that moderate risk is in place. A lot of storm chasers are flying into Cincinnati. That's like the home base. There's going to be numerous people talking about this setup. I'll be live on this particular setup as well, starting this afternoon with live storm coverage. So make sure you tune into that. But wanted to give you a full update this morning into the overnight risk zone parameters. And they did, in fact, upgrade these parameters to elevated levels and some significant levels they haven't seen in a long time up there towards Ohio. Wow, with that extremely large hail. And the most concerning is this really expanded hatched risk for strong to almost violent tornadoes. So even the Storm Prediction Center has this wording of a potentially substantial severe weather outbreak today, including a few significant long track tornadoes, is anticipated this afternoon, with the highest probability centered over the Ohio Valley. And that severe risk extends as far south as all the way down to the Gulf Coast tonight, and then shifts off as far east as the western portions of Virginia and the Carolinas. So it's a big threat. We do have that significant severe weather threat across Louisville into Cincinnati, as well as into Columbus, and even further south back into Nashville, all the way down to the Huntsville region. Does include the Memphis region, but even further south, there are parameters that are elevated and really high, even in heading into the evening time frame, 9, 10 o'clock. Could be more instability coming back into play, even as far south as the Mobile region, would include the Birmingham region, and that would likely shift over to the Atlanta region into the midnight time frame with some dangerous supercell thunderstorms. So by 3, 4, 5 o'clock, here's where the tornado parameters are really hitting the highest. Of coming out of Kentucky, big time supercells. We could have some strong tornadoes, if not some long track violent tornadoes happening by then. That's why we are doing storm coverage, to keep you as safe as possible. So now is the time for prepare for an significant day ahead across portions of Indiana, especially there through Ohio, and even sneaking into western portions of West Virginia here, and further south into Kentucky, even into Tennessee. And I think things get going again when that low-level jet and that cold front gets near Birmingham region, into those areas of Mobile, down there into central and southern portions of Alabama, even into the Florida Panhandle. And that would likely shift as we get deeper into the midnight time frame towards the Atlanta region, as this will continue to push off to the east. But as the breakdown looks like this on the radar depiction, we're likely going to be seeing numerous supercell thunderstorms widespread. That moderate risk includes that 45% probability of some widespread significant severe storms. So there's going to be numerous supercells, and each one of those could have some very damaging winds, 60 to 90 miles per hour in some of those higher significant storms, very large hail up to 3, possibly 4 inches in diameter at times. And then we have the tornado threat as well, and some of those could be some violent, if not long track tornadoes, especially as you head up here towards Middle Tennessee, heading into Kentucky, getting into the Indianapolis region. But the more favored area is across the Ohio Valley, through the Louisville region, through Cincinnati, as well as into Columbus. And then further south, we'll be watching that instability move across the southeast. So by the time we head into the 7 o'clock time frame, there is the low level jet. That's where I think the intensity picks back up again across the southeast. We could be looking at some nasty squall lines coming through Mississippi by then, heading into the Alabama region, and then getting into Middle Tennessee as this would shift more into Kentucky by then. And then the back half of the system comes back again. So they could be hit with 3 separate rounds today. You have a morning round, then you have the afternoon round, and then you have the evening round. So that's why it makes a significant day. It's a long day ahead. So definitely keep weather aware of a more significant severe weather outbreak. And this would continue to push off to the east into West Virginia, would include those areas into Pennsylvania heading to the 7 o'clock time frame. Then as we continue moving into the evening time, as we head into the overnight, this is around 3 o'clock in the morning, that squall line would probably finally be moving out of the Atlanta region, heading into southeastern Georgia by then, going into South Carolina, as well as into Virginia, into portions of North Carolina and West Virginia, and then sneak more into Pennsylvania, then get across those areas into DC and Delaware along the coast here as we head into Wednesday morning. But look what happens on the backside, folks. That's a cold air mass back behind it, and we could just have some wet snowflakes. So yes, we could be ending with some snow in portions of Wisconsin, even into areas of Iowa, and then yes, even in those areas into Chicago region is a wet snow, as your high on Wednesday is not even like 35 degrees. It's gonna feel a lot more like winter with a wet dusting of snow coming out with some snow showers. But all this continues to push off to the east, and now an expansive threat continues into the DC region by Wednesday, into Richmond, back into Raleigh, those folks in Norfolk, all the way down to the Wilmington region, all along the coast. And there's a separate threat heading into Florida as the same storm system will continue to push off the East Coast. We could be looking at some nasty supercells down there in the Orlando region and the Tampa Bay region. Be on the lookout for those, as those will continue to amplify and intensify as we head into the morning time frame. This is around 11 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, and that system will finally move up the eastern seaboard with some heavier rains, and all this changes over to all snow back when we get to upstate New York and to Vermont, and especially as it starts to slow down up there in Maine, as we'll have that snow continuing, that low pressure center kind of wrapping around and leaving some snow showers in its wake. So it's not out of the question we could be leaving behind where we see all the severe weather threat over the next 24 to 36 hours. We could be ending with a dusting or 1 inch snow across Indianapolis, through some of those areas into Ohio. So yes, we could be looking at some damaging supercells, could be looking at damaging a tornado threat, and then all ending with some snow showers coming in on the backside. But yeah, look what happens in Maine, folks. With that low pressure center continue to move off the East Coast, it definitely wraps around and starts to slow down once it gets up into New England, and it's going to be leaving a pretty good snow swath in its wake. We could be getting pounded in the ski country up there, especially across Maine. Not out of the question. Some of these areas, 12, 18, even isolated reports of 24 inches is definitely not out of the question. And these right here with the wraparound, finally, with the cold air finally wrapping in, that is just some light rain showers. Nothing to worry about there. But then all eyes turn out west, as we'll be watching our next storm complex come off the west coast that will leave more rain for those areas into California as we head into later in the day on Thursday, especially into Friday. But that same system will continue to move across the country and set up another significant storm complex across the middle of the country. And that could very well be our next storm threat that would highlight across Kansas, Oklahoma, as well as into Texas as we head into Saturday. So right now, even a day 5 risk, the Storm Prediction Center has went ahead and highlighted out ahead of the system again, as the atmosphere has plenty of time to reload, if you will. 5 days from now, we could be looking at all over again, more severe storms heading back into Kansas, back into western Oklahoma, as well as into northwestern portions of Texas. This would likely be expanded as we're looking at some more supercells entering the picture by then. And that will likely move across the Tulsa and the Dallas-Fort Worth area into the overnight hours on Saturday. So it looks to be extremely busy over the next couple of days with that severe weather threat, ending with that snowstorm. And then we have another severe weather threat that kind of reloads and starts again on Saturday. So, but what the main focus today is across the Ohio Valley and through the Southeast. We're going to be looking at a significant severe weather outbreak today, if not tornado outbreak, with some strong to possibly violent tornadoes. I will be back live covering this setup starting around 2 o'clock this afternoon. So be sure to stay tuned for live coverage. I'll see you this afternoon.